Nature builds don't always go to plan. The Paludarium I started building in today's video did a complete 180 after some problems, and I ended up turning it into a terrarium instead. I wanted to divide up the Paludarium into different sections with an underwater area at the front and land wrapping around it along the sides and the back. To do this, I'm using acrylic sheets to create a divider between the water in the front and the substrate along the sides. I'll use silicone along the edge of the sheets to create a watertight seal between the tank and the acrylic. However, I then realised that the silicone I used was a completely different colour to the lava rock adjacent to it, and it would look unnatural. To fix this, I removed the clear silicone from the front and replaced it with black silicone, which would blend in with the lava rock and substrate. However, this ended up causing a giant problem later on. But for now, I added in lacquer at the base of the land section, which is what I'd use for the drainage. It's super lightweight and holds lots of water, which makes it the perfect medium for use here. I'm now going to add in substrate on top of this, which is a mix of coco coir, worm castings, akidama and sphagnum moss. I would normally add in some sort of separation layer in between the lacquer and substrate, but I didn't have a piece big enough and the drainage is deep enough that it's fine if a little bit of substrate falls into the top of it. It's now time to work on the hardscape, and I want to create a large cave in the centre that overhangs part of the water section. To do this, I'll use superglue and tissue to join together a number of black lava rock pieces to create the cave. I'll also use a mix of driftwood pieces to give the illusion of roots growing down through the rock. I'll also position some of these around the bottom of the cave as well to look like larger roots or the base of small trees. This driftwood here has some bits pointing off, almost mimicking wooden stalactites. This should really help create the cave feel that we're looking for. I'll now add lava rock across the top of this to further solidify the cave. I can now add in some of the hardscape that I'm going to use for the water section. I'm trying to use these different pieces of lava rock to cover up the pump so it won't be visible from the front. I'm also cutting some tubing to size which I can use to supply water to the waterfall. To finish the water hardscaping off, I'll add more lava rock around the pump and some around the edge. After this, I added in my aqua soil, sloping it towards the back, and then went to do a water test. And while everything had gone perfectly up to this point, this is where things started to go wrong. If we look back to an earlier clip, we can see that after I used the black silicone, I forgot to replace a piece of silicone along the bottom edge of one of the pieces of acrylic. This would all have been avoided if I'd done a second water test after adding the black silicone. But in a rush to get the project started, I skipped this step. As you can see, the water level is lowering and all the water is draining out under this crack. When I lifted up the substrate, unfortunately it has all started to waterlog. Luckily, because I had a drainage layer, I could drain all of it out before it logged the whole thing, and I did the same thing in the water section and removed all of the aqua soil. I then mopped up the remainder of the water and let the rest that was in the soil drain back through the gap so that I could remove it. Once dry, I could add more silicone along the edge, which would stop this from happening again. I then also had to remove any of the substrate that had been ruined in the process. It would take ages for this to dry, and leaving it would cause any plants that I added to develop root rot. I was going to work on the water section next, but I decided for the rest of the day I'd do some planting and I'd work out what to do with it tomorrow. You can see me here adding some massive anthuriums, which will be the main focus at the back of the tank. I'll also dot round a variety of other plant species, which I'll show on screen. I'm now going to add some plants on top of the cave, including this cushion moss, which I'll also dot around the edge of the tank. By this point, I just decided that I was going to completely bin off the water section. While it was now watertight, I had some cool ideas for this section as a terrarium instead. After smoothing out the substrate, I used my remaining cushion moss to fill out this middle bit, leaving gaps for a path to run and snake through the centre. I then added a few more plants to flesh out the background, like this Anthurium silver blush and Anthurium clarinervium. I can then continue the hardscape around the centre with more black lava rock in between the moss. To add some more colour contrast, I'll create a yellow sand path that can snake through the centre of the tank. I'll also detail this with some smaller colourful pieces of gravel. I found these quartz crystals in a shop in the Lake District, and I think they'll make a perfect addition to this tank. By dotting them around, I hope to create the sense that they're now exposed on the surface of the cave, hinting at what could be inside. I can now start adding plant cuttings like this Pilear Moon Valley. Rootless cuttings like these are super easy to do inside of terrariums, as the tropical plants will shoot roots straight out of their stems in humid conditions. The plants best suited for this are often climbing plants, but other plants with thick stalks like Pilear Moon Valley and Photonia will happily root in a terrarium as well. It's now time to spray down the terrarium with deionized water. Some of the water from before definitely remained, and so I'll likely need less than normal, so I'm only giving the tank a light spray. To make the terrarium bioactive, I'm also adding in Springtails, which feed off decaying matter and add nutrients back into the terrarium. While the build didn't end up as a paludarium like originally planned, I'm still super happy with how it turned out. Let my mistakes be a lesson that terrariums and paludariums take time and things shouldn't be rushed, as this will lead to more problems that will waste more of your time. If you think a build like this is too large for you to try, watch this video next where I build a paludarium in a jar that doesn't go wrong that anyone could make at home.